we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Melinda Powell for the Department, the St. Francis Permanency Specialist, is Erin Stevens. She will address issues with the child. Additionally, Tippy Watson can speak as to the home study.
Bailey Sapien for respondent mother, Blossom Lewis. My client is currently in the Potter County Detention Center. I have called out there multiple times and have not gotten an answer by staff. So I'm still trying to get contact with my client. So she's not here.
Jeffy, on behalf of Jesus Torres, Judge, I see that he is present. We're ready.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the child, here and ready.
All right, then, what do we have new since the court report were filed?
Ms. Stevens.
So since the court report, Jesus has been served. On the court report, it says that he hasn't been served, but since then we did get him served. Let's see. Savion has been to the doctor again. He went on Friday for his allergies. That's not on there. And I believe that's it.
And judge service plans have both been signed and filed.
Yes.
Good job, Erin.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, and I was looking at the service. It looks like that was on June 20th. Personal service. Okay. And
That's
it looks like, I'm not looking at the results. I'm just looking that it looks like both parents did drug screen for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Judge, if Ms. Watson may speak as to the home study and what's going on with that.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
I've reviewed the home study very carefully. There is on Mr. Rivas a disqualifying 5-year bar for a driving while intoxicated charge out of Bexar County. It took a while to get the documents out of the county, but I did finally receive those. That happened in 2019, so it's only been 4 years. I have done a kinship safety evaluation. I have sent that in the home study to Jessica Hoskins, our program director. And then from there, it has to go to Micah Smith, who is our regional director, for approval on that. I cannot approve the home study because it falls outside of the 5-year bar.
Okay, and this is paternal grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, was it paternal grandmother or someone else in the home that had the DWI?
Her husband.
Her husband. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he actually paternal grandfather or is he stepfather or?
Stepfather.
Okay. And all of that, as far as you can tell, those charges were dealt with.
Yes,
dispensed
ma'am.
with?
He paid his fines. He did his AA meetings as required and did his community service. It scheduled to be off of his record and turned into a obstruction of a highway at the end of the 5 years. So 1 more year.
But he's complied with everything and
Yes,
current
ma'am.
on everything and. Okay. Does he still have a valid driver's license?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Any other concerns in the home study?
There was some extensive CPS history for Miss Rivas, but all but one of those were ruled out. One of them was unable to complete and close because she moved and they could not contact her to finish the case.
No legal removals?
No, ma'am.
Let me just ask, Ms. Zavala, have you seen the home study?
I have not. The only information I have about it is what you're hearing as well. So I haven't seen anything or read anything.
All right, so that it has to work its way up the chain. Dad is not living there, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, they live in the San Antonio area, as I recall.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. Hill, where's your client live?
I believe he's here local, Judge.
Okay.
Is that correct, Jesus? Are you here local?
Yeah.
And if I could speak,
Judge, if you give me a chance to speak.
Yeah, I am, because I'm sure
Okay.
Mr. Hill's got some questions for you. I'm trying to kind of get a lay of the land here, if we end up placing, Savion with you, I just want to make sure, how parents feel about that, because it's a long way away. And it,
Mhm.
it just makes things more difficult for parents to bond and have time with the child. And I think I want to make sure that that's what they want and they've considered that. And, I'm ultimately going to do what I think is best for the child, but I, obviously care about their opinion. So, Mr. Torres, is that what you really want?
Yes, we both agreed on the last court hearing. It's better for him to be with family than strangers.
Okay. I know how you all felt about it at that point in time, but sometimes people change their minds when it comes down to that. So I'm just double checking. All right. Okay. Anything else from the department at the moment?
I don't think so, Judge. Just and the court's fully aware that if you place and the home study is not approved, then there won't be any assistance to the family. With that being said, I don't know how much assistance they need without seeing that home study or knowing any of the financial information.
Okay. Well, and I want to hear what Mr. Hill and his witness have to say, but okay. So Ms. Sapien, anything to add today?
Nothing from me, Judge.
Okay. Do you know, is your client still in favor of that, if that checks out?
All I know is from the last hearing and the conversations after, she was fine, even if the child had to be in San Antonio, because she trusts the paternal grandmother. They do have a good relationship, Ms. Rivas and my client. But like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to her this week to reconfirm that.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Hill.
Thanks, Judge. Ms. Watson, have you seen the documents regarding this DWI? I'm a little confused. I practice primarily criminal law. I've never seen a judgment that changes from one charge to another upon completion of a probation period.
Yes, I have seen the documents.
And he's on deferred or what?
Yes, he's on deferred.
He's on deferred for DWI or on deferred for obstruction of a highway?
Hold on, let me pull that document up.
Because I know sometimes some jurisdictions will plead a DWI down to an obstruction of highway. But I'm unaware of any mechanism for a charge to change upon completion of a probation period.
The document I have from the deferred adjudication states that he's on probation on deferred adjudication community supervision on December 12, 2019 for a period of 10 months with extension of 1 year. The Corrections Department hereby acknowledges that the defendant has shown progress in adherence to the conditions of deferred adjudication and further informs the court that the defendant's deferred adjudication expires on December 11th, 2021. It doesn't say what that was. The arresting report is directly linked to the DWI.
That sure could be. So you don't actually have a copy of the order placing him on deferred. You just have some kind of a progress report or
yes.
Okay, so somebody maybe needs to get that actual deferred order to find out what he was placed on deferred for. Does that make a difference to St. Francis, whether it's DWI or obstruction of a highway?
Because the arrest was DWI, I believe that is what we go by. And then
so you're concerned with arrest, not adjudication?
Well, that's a tough question that I don't know how to answer. Melinda, do you have any insight into that?
Well, an arrest is not a conviction for the purposes of anything really. So I think it would probably be based upon what he was convicted of, because that's what's admissible.
Well, deferred. We know he's on deferred. So.
And I use the term convicted, quote unquote, because even a deferred anything is not a conviction. And I think we're all on the same page, but I just wanted to bring that up and remind everybody.
No, I understand that. I'm just the family code allows us to use deferred adjudications, Jeff. And so that's what my brain is.
Sure.
But it would be whatever the final, whatever he stood up and said, I'm guilty, but don't find me guilty.
Yeah. Ms. Rivas, you were holding up a document. What is that?
It's actually stamped, and this I went to go get it from the court. And it's dismissal and discharge of deferred adjudication of obstruction to the highway. And Miss Tootie, I had to call her supervisor because nobody was letting me explain, and she never got back to me. So I was telling her. So when this hit, when he got arrested, it was in December 12, 2019. After that, in January, the whole world shut down. So there was no way for us to go or for him to go defend himself and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't driving. This is what happened. But courts, everything was shut down. So when we finally went to go, when all the courts started opening, then we went, and then they took off the DWI, of course, and this is what they gave him. So it's supposed to already come off since 2021. We're 2023. And they just said they're so far behind that they're, as they're coming, they're, putting them in. And I explained to him, this is before Sabian. I told him, this is his job. Like, he needs his license because he's a limo driver as well. So, he needs his license. This can't be on his record because this could have, this affects his life. Like, this affects him working and making, a living. So they said, yes, we understand, but as long as you have the court documentation stamped in the back or it's sealed, then it shouldn't come up as DWI. But if it does, you need to just show them this. And I sent this to Tootie 2 weeks ago, and I told her. And last week I had to call Jessica, which was her supervisor, because nobody was getting back to me and letting me know what was happening. And then Erin called me, which is the caseworker, and she said, well, we're barely getting documentations from San Antonio. I'm like, okay, so why did y'all guys didn't get it 2 weeks ago instead of y'all having me get it, and now y'all are getting, court documentation from San Antonio? It's taking 2 more weeks. I don't understand what the whole process is.
Okay, so Ms. Rivas, are you saying that you sent it to Ms. Watson, to Tippy?
Yes, I did. The first day she called me, I went right down to the courthouse and I got a copy stamped and everything. She said to send it to Erin, and I sent it right to her. It took, and then the following week.
Okay, slow down. I'm trying to find out, did you email it?
No, I sent it in a text. She told me to send it her in a text message.
To Erin? Hang on. To Erin or to Ms. Watson?
To Erin, and Erin would get it to her.
Okay, Ms. Sessions, do you have that text message?
Wrong Erin.
Yeah.
I mean, Erin Stevens, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yes, I do. And I forwarded it to Tippy.
Okay, Ms. Watson, do you see that?
Yes, ma'am. It took 10 days, I believe, to get the actual arrest record, which I need to do the KSC with, and that had to come out of Bexar County.
Okay, so that document that Ms. Rivas has got in her hand that she's referring to sounds to me like what Mr. Hill, kind of like what the rest of us would like to see.
And Judge, if you'll allow me to share screen, I actually pulled up the Bexar County case, and he was charged with obstruction of a highway intoxication was what the charge ended up being.
Okay.
And this shows that he is currently on deferred adjudication.
Okay, I enabled share screen if you want to show it. I certainly take your word for it, but I think that answers the question if that in fact is the case. So Ms. Watson, the home study would need to reflect that it's not a DWI, that he was actually charged. I mean, it could show he was arrested for DWI, but he was not charged, nor did he plead guilty to a DWI.
Yeah, so can y'all see that?
It sounds like the sounds like the deferred period is over based on what she read from that document.
Jeff, I'm looking at the events. Well, it says JN close 7/2/2022. JN close, so it may be done.
On 12/3, it showed a dismissal.
You can only do a 2-year deferred period on a misdemeanor.
Yeah, so it was dismissed on 12/13/2021. Sorry.
So he completed successfully, so no conviction. Everybody agree with that?
Yes.
I think that's yes.
Yes.
So that then, I don't know how that affects policy as far as the, denial or approval of the home study, but it would not be a DWI, and it's no longer pending, and there's no conviction.
I think I can approve it with concerns, but I would need to double check and make sure. But I think I can approve it with concerns if that's the case.
Okay. I would like for Ms. Zavala to have the opportunity to see the home study.
Mm-hmm.
And, depending if everybody's all right with that, I mean, I'd like to see it. And then, if St. Francis isn't going to approve it, I would like the opportunity to see it in Ms. Zavala and then determine whether I'm going to override that, because if St. Francis can't approve because of those kinds of reasons. I mean, it sounds to me like he did everything he was supposed to do and he took care of his business. And, so I personally, I don't, I'm not wound around the flagpole about this. Now, if there's other concerns in the home study, then that's different. But on this one particular issue, I think I've heard sufficient amount to convince me I'm not concerned.
Okay, Judge, and on Ms. Tootie was saying about cases of me having CPS. My son passed away in 2000. He had ROHAD. Those are the only cases that were ever open to me. I didn't find it's a rare disease, only 50 in the United States and 2 in Texas, and my son was one of them. I was called a black ball at Santa Rosa Hospital. So every time I took my son to Santa Rosa, CPS was called, and the CPS worker told me, why don't you take him to another hospital? And I said, no, that's all his records. Nobody knows what's wrong with him. So it took them 6 years to find out actually what was wrong with my son, and it was ROHAD. And so every time, there was always about neglect. I was overfeeding him, but, he had series of illnesses. Now, he passed away and everything, but that was the only thing that was wrong. But I thought, I didn't say, I didn't coward myself and be like, okay, I'm going to take him to another hospital so CPS won't get called. I said no, because I know I didn't do nothing. I don't know what his illnesses are. So I stuck taking him to that hospital. And I did it. I did it to the rest of, until he passed, because, I didn't know what was wrong with him. So that was the only reason CPS was ever called on me, was for neglect, for medical neglect, for overfeeding him. And they didn't even know what was wrong with him. And so finally, I actually got a letter, but I need to go through my storage, where they said, you know what, everything was, now we know what's wrong with him. Now, okay, this is what's wrong with him. But I'm like, yeah, but y'all guys already slandered my name. But to me, it didn't matter, because as long as I knew that I was trying to get help for my son, and I know I didn't do nothing, I stay stuck taking them to the same hospital. And it didn't matter how many times they called CPS, I stayed there. I had no, I wasn't guilty of nothing.
Okay. So all I'm saying, Ms. Rivas, is I have a very strong feeling that this is going to end up working out fine. The child's going to be placed with you. All I want is for the child's attorney to have an opportunity to look over the home study, and I want to look at the home study. It's that simple. If and it may be that St. Francis will approve even with concerns, but let us get that circulated to everybody. And if Ms. Vola, if you have a problem with it, I obviously need to know. We can get back together if we need a full-blown hearing. But otherwise, counsel, are you all right if everybody just takes a look at it, and if everybody's good, and particularly if I'm good with it, then we can just place?
I think so, Judge. I think Tippy, but is that really the bulk of the concern? You've seen it.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no financial problem. All of the CPS history was ruled out, except for the one which was unable to determine because they couldn't find her. She moved, apparently. She has an explanation for we have no concerns with that. The home appears appropriate. The pictures are fine. There's plenty of room for the child. So all I need is actually to get program director approval at this point, which I don't see as a problem.
Okay. All right. So let's get it run up the food chain and then circulated, please, to Ms. Bala for sure. And well, every attorney should have an opportunity to look at it.
Judge, it should get filed once they make that determination. So it'd be sent out to everybody.
Just somebody make me aware particularly that it's been filed, because we don't always get notification of that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
I'll try to get that filed this week if I can wade through the powers that be.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Zavala, anything today?
No, Your Honor. Sagan's doing very well. I've met with him in person. They're on top of his medical needs. He's doing great. In theory, I've got no objection to moving with grandma or with grandparents. And it's sounding like probably that home study will pass. But as of right now, he's very well taken care of, doing very good. I do recommend that placement continue until we can get a resolution on the family home study. But hopefully that should be coming shortly.
And Judge, if that home study is approved, does St. Francis have permission to move the child without a hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Mainly what I need to know is if it's approved or if it's not. then, you know, we all need to look at it. And then if somebody wants a hearing on it, we can. If not, if everybody's okay with it, I'm going to look at it and make a decision. But all right, then, I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I will continue the child's current placement pending getting this home study wrapped up. And if everything's good, then we can go ahead and change placement. And I'm going to order the service plans as an order of the court. Mr. Torres, what that means is I do expect you to work your services. I know you're off to a good start. And, you know, failure to work your services could mean the child doesn't go home. Worst case scenario, it can mean termination of your parental rights. So we don't want to go down that road. And I don't think we're going to go down that road. I hope so. Just be aware of that. It's very important to get those things done. All right, then our next hearing will be October 19th of 2023. Hearing, we're conducting this through the Zoom program. We're live streaming. And Ms. Taylor is making our record. We'll go ahead and take announcements.
Filling a file for the Department of St. Francis Permanency Specialist today is Marvell Collins, who is, I'm assuming, Marvell, are you the supervisor on the case? Okay.
Vince Nowak on behalf of Monica Gibson. We're both here and we're ready, Judge.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Noah.
Okay, Mr. Pirtle's logged in but not connected. He represents Daniel Gann, the father. Mr. Gann is not present. So what do we have new since the court report was filed?
There's not a whole lot of new information other than the court report. Monica did complete her inpatient treatment, and she is now working on an outpatient program. We're trying to get her started with some of the services she actually started but hasn't completed, such as the counseling and the domestic violence support group. So those services are going to be set up where she is. I mean, the child is doing great. That's when the placement with the grandparents. They have been doing some Zoom visitation over the last probably 6 weeks. There has been some concerns with the visit because he's only 4, so he has a hard time staying on the phone very long, which disappoints mom because he doesn't want to stay on the phone, but he's only 4. So everybody kind of understands that. I think we're trying to, because Noah's in therapy, and I think with the proximity, we're looking at we can probably start some in-person visits. It's about an hour and a half for mom to get to, I believe it's Battle Creek, and have the therapist start therapeutically and then move them to supervise once she recommends that she doesn't have to be a part of that. We do need some confirmation other than Monica just telling us that she has completed that. Like, we need the completion certificates for her inpatient. We believe she's done it. We just need to have that confirmation and what program she is actually participating in for inpatient or outpatient. And she's living with her mom right now.
She's in Michigan.
She's in Ohio.
Ohio. Is the child in Michigan?
Yes.
Okay.
But evidently the child and the grandparents can travel. It's about an hour and a half to where the therapist is. And I believe it's an hour and a half for mom to get there. And so the grandparents are willing to go ahead and continue to take him and maybe set up some in-person visits.
Okay.
So Ms. Collins, at this point in time, what is St. Francis' opinion as to mother's compliance with the service plan?
Well, she just completed her inpatient, which we're kind of towards the tail end of the case. So she's a little behind. She has been sober a little over 80 days probably, which is concerning because we're almost to the end of this. She has not completed her counseling or the domestic violence support group. We would like her to do a hair and a UA, and we'll find a location that is close to her.
Is she working on some of these other services?
I believe she just got out of the outpatient at the end of May. I do not believe that she has started the domestic violence or the individual counseling.
Did she do any counseling while she was?
She's doing some counseling. She hasn't completed it.
Okay. But was she in counseling the whole time she was in inpatient?
Yes. The counseling other than the substance abuse counseling. Her counselor is focusing on the substance abuse, which can still work. I don't believe the psychosocial was ever done, but she's probably not going to be able to get that done actually in Ohio. I get confused on who's where.
Well, I guess my question is, if we, most inpatient there's a lot of counseling that goes along with that. So the counseling that she did during inpatient, does that satisfy the requirement on her service manual?
It could. I think the biggest issue is we haven't been able to get confirmation of what she has completed.
Okay.
She has verbalized she's completed the inpatient. We don't have any confirmation of those services and what she actually did. She may have also done a parenting class in that inpatient, but we don't know that because we haven't got the confirmation. We haven't been able to talk to anybody.
Okay, so Ms. Gibson, you see where we're headed with this. We need, and Mr. Nowak, we either need, an authorization to get that information, or we need you all to get that for us, to show us what all you completed. Because a lot of times in inpatient, there's a whole lot of these things that you do that we want to give you credit for. We just got to see validation of it.
Correct. Yes. And I mean, this is also one of those cases that has had several workers. So Monica may have signed a release. She didn't sign a release for Michelle, the current worker, to get that information. So maybe she just has to sign another release of information for us.
Okay, so Mr. Nowak, I guess I'll let you discuss that with your client, how you want to go about that, if you want to have her sign a release, or if you want her to go about getting all those things and sending them to you. I don't care how it happens. It's just obviously we need to confirm it.
Sure. And I appreciate that, Judge. And we have no problem signing a release. I thought we did already. My issue in this particular case is I've reached out to caseworkers in the last 2 weeks and I haven't heard back from anybody. And my questions were going to be, what do you need to be on the track for reunification? So this is the first time I'm hearing in court today that they need something else. Because from my view, Monica's doing excellent. She's really doing well. She'll go hair follicle and UA today and she'll pass both. But my main question to Ms. Collins is, are we on the track for reunification, number one? And number two, what do you need from me?
We would need of course, the completion of what she has done and not done to make sure. And I mean, her sobriety is a big deal. I mean, she's only been sober for not even 2 months yet. And so we want to make sure that she's on track for that.
Let's be fair, Ms. Collins. 80 days is almost 3 months, correct?
Okay. 88 days. Yeah.
Has the department reached out to Midwest Recovery Center?
I have not, but of course, Michelle is the worker. I don't know.
Do you know if Michelle has reached out to Midwest Recovery Center?
I do not. But
do you know if Michelle has asked Monica for a release for Midwest Recovery Center?
I believe she has, and she has asked Monica for her certificates. Yes.
Monica, has that happened? And Judge, I'm out of turn here. I apologize. Monica, don't answer that.
It's okay. I mean, the bottom line is we just want to make sure we get to the right information.
Sure. You're on mute, Monica.
May I have opportunity to speak on everything here?
Sure.
To be correct, my sober date is March 17th of this year. I'm well over 100 days sober. I'm just over 100 days. So I want to make that correction. I've been sober since March 17th. I went into Midwest Rehab on March 29th. They did the assessment on March 28th. That included an OSARS assessment, initial intake assessment that included a psychosocial evaluation. And I did ASAM assessments while I was there. I graduated from that program early on May 25th. And I reached out to Kember Thomas when she was my caseworker before I even left the program, letting her know the date that I was graduating because they told me a couple weeks ahead of time. I signed off on release information forms. The case manager that I had there with Midwest, her name is Alicia. I'm still trying to get in contact with her, which is difficult. She sent an email to Kember Thomas, that was the caseworker at the time, with all my certificates of completion showing that I completed that program. Now, where those documents went from the time that Kember Thomas received them, I can't answer that. I don't know what she did, but I do know that Alicia, my case manager with Midwest, did send those certificates of completion to her. So I just wanted to clear that part up. And as far as the domestic violence support groups, I've completed 3 out of the 6. I'm doing the 4th one today. I do them through Family Support Services with Amarillo online. I've done 3 out of 6. I'm doing the 4th one today. They're every Tuesday from 6 to 7, which is 5 to 6 my time here. I am actively in parenting classes through CPC Women's Health Clinic here in Bryan, Ohio. I have 7 out of my 10 classes done. I have another one I'm starting this Friday, so I'm more than compliant with that. Also, I want to voice it that I'm currently in recovery services in Northwest Ohio, which is the 2nd stage in my treatment plan which is an outpatient program. I started that May 30th. I wanted to start it as soon as the next day, as soon as I graduated from Midwest on the 25th. I wanted to start it on the 26th, but because of Memorial Day being a holiday and because they don't work on the weekends, we had to wait till the next day after Memorial Day before they could get me registered to start in that program. So I did start that May 30th. I've been in that program, present, and doing very well. I'm over halfway through the first half of that program, which is IOP, intensive outpatient. The second half of that will be RP, which is relapse prevention.
Okay, slow
And
down, Ms. Gibson. Just
I'm
slow
just
down.
trying to go over everything. I'm not trying to speed. I'm just going through a list of everything that I'm doing.
I'm saying
Monica,
slow
there's a court
down
reporter.
because of a court reporter. Just slow down.
Sorry.
She's trying to take everything down. So you
It's no
understand,
problem. I don't mean to be talking quickly.
you and I can't talk over each other. She can't take us
Understood.
both at once. But you're talking very, very fast. So all I'm asking you is just slow the pace down so the court reporter can be sure and get everything.
Understood. Let me know when you'd like me to resume.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna start back again. CPC parenting classes. It's a women's health clinic in Bryan. I've done 7 out of 10. I have 3 more of those left and parenting classes will be complete. The domestic violence support group. I'm doing the 4th one today. I have 2 more and then that will be complete. Those are done every Tuesday, 5 to 6 my time, 6 to 7 Amarillo time. That is through Family Support Services in conjunction with St. Francis Ministries. So with that being said, the domestic violence counseling, when I talked to Kimber Thomas, when she was still my caseworker, she had told me after going over my plan of services, she had told me that she was putting it down that the domestic violence counseling was complete because that was included along with my substance abuse counseling that I was receiving at Midwest. So she said that she felt that that was complete based off of everything that I had given her information wise from that, and she was including that with the counseling I was receiving in Midwest with the substance use. That was her statement. That's what she had said to me. Beyond telling you about most of my parenting classes being complete and most of the support group being complete over halfway through, I'm excelling very well in the outpatient rehab, very comfortable with who I am. As I said, I'm over 100 days sober. I apologize that Ms. Marvel has the incorrect information, but it is not 88 days. I've been sober since March 17th. And I'm very happy and very comfortable with the new peaceful woman that I've become. And, you know, I know what my mistakes are in my past. And I can't go back and fix those mistakes, but I can and I have learned from them. And I'm a much stronger, much better individual than what I was. And I know I have every aspect of what it takes to be the proper mother to my child. And also, I wanted to report to you, I have a job. It's a full-time job with KFC. And right here in Bryan, I don't have a paycheck for it yet. But I will be getting a paycheck in a couple of weeks. When I know when that payday will be, I will let you guys know, and you guys will I will be more than happy to give you guys pay stubs for as much as you need, every paycheck if necessary, so you guys can see that income coming in. And also, I would like to say too, as Vince Noack, my attorney stated, I have stabilized housing right now. I'm living with my mom, my birth mother here in Ohio. There's a room already prepared with a bed, dresser, everything for my son. It is a perfectly fine place for him to come here too. So I have a place of my own, and I have transportation with my mom with her vehicle to get myself and my son, if he were to come back to me, get them back and forth wherever he needs to go, whether it's daycare, whether it's school, doctor's appointments, anything. That's all completely, totally reliable without issue. I am staying at my mom's until I can get a place of my own. As soon as I have a couple of paychecks to have the money I need to be able to get a place of my own, I will be doing that immediately. I am very much on track and very much doing everything possible to show you guys I'm a completely different woman than what you were looking at a year ago. And I am very much 110% fully focused on being the best woman and mother I can be in the eyes of this court and the eyes of myself.
All right. So how are we gonna, I'm coming back to, how are we going to get the verification of these services to Ms. Collins?
Okay, now going back to that, I don't know if anyone there, and these are questions I was trying to find answers to. I don't know if Ms. Marvel, who is the supervisor from what I'm hearing today, I don't know if she is able to retrieve this information. But as I said, Kimber Thomas, I don't know if she's still in the department or she has a different job title, whatever, but the documentation that you guys are requesting for the OSAR assessment, for the psychosocial, for the completion of the Midwest, and for everything so far, that was sent to her in an email from my case manager. What St. Francis Ministries did, what she did with it once she received it in that email, I don't know. So
Judge.
I need to know what you guys need from me to get that.
Okay, hang on, Ms. Sessions. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So when an employee stops working for us, the supervisor over that employee has access to that employee's emails. Kimber Thomas's supervisor, Jenna Simpson, just went through Kimber's emails, and there is not an email from Alicia containing any certificates.
Okay, I don't understand why that's not there because Alicia had stated to me that that email was made. So again, what do you guys specifically need me to do to get this stuff for you? I
If
need
you
to
could
know
sign a
specifically.
release specifically for Michelle Slagle to contact Alicia, then we can call and get those records from her ourselves. Or you can
So-
call her and have her email them to Michelle Slagle and myself.
So do I need to go up there and do that in person? Will a phone call take care of it? What do you need?
I don't know what the facility will allow you to do. That's something you'll have to call the facility and ask them. If they're willing to allow you to do that over the phone, I think that's fine. I mean, that'll be the way they do things.
Okay. But like I said, I wanted to be clear. I've been sober for over 100 days, not the
That's
80
great.
days that you think. And I've been very active in every aspect of improving my whole life, which includes the parenting classes, the domestic violence support groups. I have a lot of support people. I have a sponsor that I've had from day one. I have a counselor. I have friends that are from my group that I lean on. I have staff that are very comfortable with me that I lean on. In the current rehab that I am at, I have staff from Midwest where I was at before that, if necessary, would be more than happy to speak on my behalf. At the last hearing, April 11th, my case manager then, Alicia, she spoke directly to Judge Baker during our hearing on my
Okay.
behalf as to how I was doing.
Let me just stop everybody. All right.
I just want you guys to see that I'm a changed person.
Okay. This is stuff that you guys can work out outside of court hearing. I'm despicably late on my docket. I've got to get moving on. I mean, this is stuff that you guys can have a meeting or do whatever and get worked out. You don't need me to get that
Okay.
worked out. Does everybody agree?
Yes, and I think
ma'am.
Michelle has been in contact with Monica, so Michelle can get on that. One of the things I did have a question, since she's living with her mom, and if that is the possibility of where Noah may be placed, I don't know as if it's not going to be beneficial to get an expedited home study on that home in order for somebody to be able to do a,
Nothing expedited. There won't be anything expedited about it. It'll be an ICPC home study.
okay.
So you can certainly request that, Maribel.
Okay.
And Judge, in regards to compliance with services, I'm not going to mark has or has not demonstrated. I'm just going to put Monica Gibson to provide completion documents to St. Francis because at this point in time, we don't have that verification, if that's okay with the court.
That's fine. I mean, I don't doubt that she's done all these things, but we've got to figure out how we get all that.
Okay.
It's always a problem when it's out of state, it just makes it that more complicated. So, okay, I need to hear from Mr. Pirtle real quickly.
Your Honor, I believe my client's somewhere in Tennessee. I have not had any contact with him. So I have nothing to report.
Okay, and Ms. Zavala? Ms. Gibson, I'm gonna mute you again because of the dogs.
Your Honor, I've been able to Zoom regularly with Noah. It is difficult to keep the attention of a 4-year-old on Zoom, but he does appear to be doing very well. He's told me all about all different kinds of activities and daycare and things like that. I would love, because I understand how hard those Zooms are for me. If they're close enough for in-person visits, I would love to see if we could get something set up for mom in person, because it is very difficult to hold the attention of an active 4-year-old online. But he's doing very well.
All right, so we'll get all this stuff verified, give mom credit for everything that she's done, as long as we can verify everything, and then for today, I mean, we can order the ICPC home study on the grandmother's home. I don't have any problem with that. I'm going to order mom to do the drug testing as requested. So Ms. Gibson, you need to just be in contact with Ms. Collins about that. I'll continue the department as temporary managing, continue placement. And our next hearing is the final, and that's scheduled for August 15th of 2023. And as a reminder, we've already extended the case. So we're going to be up against the dismissal date, which is October 13th. So if we have to have just a very minimal amount of additional time, we've got that, but let's reconvene August 15th and see where we're at.
And
Okay.
Judge, I know you're running late. Just real quick question. Assuming Monica passes her hair follicle and her UA, can we go ahead and start some in-person visits?
I'm fine with doing the in-person visits. I think they talked about that they were going to try to get that started.
Yes, yes, Michelle has already made some contact and we're trying to just finalize some plans.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all. See everybody back August 15th.
Thank you so much, Judge.
Thank you.
Martville, since we can't do an expedited order because ICPC doesn't care about expedited order, I just put in the order here that you will submit an ICPC
specialist today is Samara Duran.
Ryan Turman for responded parents, Ben and Becca Ellery. We are all present and ready.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of.
We have news. It's court report was filed.
Since the court report was filed, Your Honor, Michaela has moved to a group home in the Houston area. I've been in contact with the case manager. She said that she seems like she's adjusting well.
Okay, Mr. Andis fell out. I'll tell you what, we're so behind. I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Turman, anything to report today?
I think there's some things we need to talk about today. It's the last hearing before our final that's set here in a couple months. And I think we've got some concerns we need to at least bring up. So I'm not sure what to do.
Okay. All right, hang on. Let me see if we can get her back in.
So sorry. I don't
It's
know
okay.
what happened.
Okay.
I'm just gonna leave my video off if that's okay. I'm on my cell phone.
That's fine.
Okay. Since since the court report was filed, Chandler was moved to a group home in the Houston area. I spoke with the case manager a few days after we had moved him. He said that Michaela says it's okay to use she, her pronouns and call her Michaela. She's still learning house rules. They kind of have to monitor what she eats so she doesn't overeat because she had been doing that at like dinner and lunch. But she had one small tantrum over move-in weekend, but she was easily redirected. I haven't gotten any reports of bad behavior since. I did try to have a video call with her yesterday, but placement did not get on at the time we had agreed.
Okay. And I don't know where the feedback's coming from. So she's getting settled in there?
Your Honor, it sounds like she is.
Okay. Anything else to report?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Turman.
Judge, I think this case is, we've discussed with Ms. Duran, with my clients, with Ms. Zavala. I think we're probably heading towards a PMC in this case. A lot of the concerns is just, there's been no progress that we've been able to observe on Michaela or Chandler's part. The relationship with the Ellerys seems to be deteriorating, honestly, if nothing else. It's my understanding that Chandler no longer wants any communication with them. A nagging concern for at least the last year or so at the prior placement was with the therapeutic visitations that have been ordered, is that the therapist, Mr. Billy, just, if he wasn't setting them up, he wasn't just really doing them in a therapeutic way in any way, shape, or form, just sort of being a fly on the wall to their non-conversation with Michaela. I think the Ellerys would like to get some real sort of therapeutic family, some sort of family therapy in a real way set up with Ellery to see if we can restore this relationship, or at least the communication. But that's kind of where we're at.
All right. That might be easier now that she's in a group home. Ms. Duran, do you have any sense about that?
I do not, Your Honor. That was part of my intention during our call yesterday, was to discuss like what counseling looked like there, if she had been set up with a counselor yet. I do know when I talked to Chandler this month on the 1st, he was very adamant that he did not want contact with his parents. And we discussed, like that means you can't call and ask them for things, or you can't just call and talk only when you want to. That's if you're going to go non-contact, that you have to be all in for it. And he seemed like he really did not want contact. But of course there was always your parents do love you and your parents do want to speak to you. And I'm hopeful that with a new placement and maybe like a new set of scenery and a new pace, he'll be more open to conversations with parents versus what it was before.
Ms. Baldwin?
Your Honor, at this time, Michaela is going back and forth in terms of being called Michaela or Chandler. I really feel for the Ellerys. I know they love Michaela. I know they love Chandler, which, it is a difficult situation. I was able to Zoom with Michaela, and I asked, which do you want us to refer to you as? I'm struggling every time I say the name, and she said she was just as comfortable being Michaela and she as Chandler and he, so I kind of use them interchangeably now. Seemed very happy about the new placement. When Chandler was in Levelland, I got to meet in person a number of different times. I know it does not feel from the LRE standpoint that there's been progress made. I can tell you, I can see a difference in my interactions with Chandler over the course of time. I know that issues at school and behavior issues at the first placement did decrease. I think they did a bad job of documenting that, but I was able to see that. But I agree, there has not been progress in terms of the relationship with the Ellers. Michaela was pretty clear with me as well that she didn't want contact right now. I also reiterated, they love you, they support you. We've had some conversations in the past about, look, they know that you don't want to come home right now, and they're okay with that. They still want this relationship with you. They love you, even if that's what you feel right now. And I was really hoping that would open back up, but she really has said at this point she does not want that contact. Now, I have seen some progress with her, particularly over the course of this case, just not progress with the relationship with the Elleries. It did seem to be very happy there. It's been possibly 2 weeks since our last video call. But she reported things going very well there and said, I kind of want to stay here as long as possible. So I thought that was a good, I believe in the fall, she will be faced with going to in-person school. And I think actually that's something she needs to learn to do. And we talked about that and how that may be difficult, but that's the next step. And she really needs to work on that. And she seems willing to do that. So I'm hopeful about this new placement. I hate that I can't see her in person as much. And I hate that there's been a breakdown between her and her parents, because I know they love her very much.
Okay, so where do y'all want to go from here? I mean, I know we have a final coming up. I'm seeing the handwriting on the wall. Is everybody seeing the handwriting on the wall? I mean, we're not 2 months from now, we're not going to be, I can't foresee that we're going to be ready to send the child home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Chairman's right. I think we're headed to PMC on this, and I think at that point in time, try to continue building that relationship. I agree with what Mr. Chairman and Mrs. Alla both said about maybe getting some real family therapy started. And I'm obviously coming in this kind of blind, but from what I looked at and from what I've read, that's going to be the hope, and that's not going to be accomplished in the next 2 months.
Well, I have no problem getting it started. Parents are obviously, seem to be willing to do that. If the child is willing, to really actively engage in it, and then that's great.
And that, Your Honor, I believe is where our issue lies. Chandler was not interested in family therapy. And so when it's my understanding, when Mr. Billy would have these sessions, he kind of let Chandler just lead and run with it. And if he tried to bring anything up, or if her other therapist had tried to bring anything up, he didn't want to talk about it. He just shut down and would be non-responsive.
And, we can't make the child participate if the child doesn't want to. I don't know what else to do other than have it set up, have it available, keep trying, and go from there. Can we possibly have an in-person visit? Would that maybe help? I don't know. As an icebreaker, could that help?
There were in-person visits while Chandler and Michaela was in Levelland. They were having regular in-person visits. I have no personal objection to an in-person visit. I would love to see that develop. I will tell you that Michaela said she does not want that at this point.
Okay, well, that's all I know to do. So we'll try to set it up, try to make it available, try to encourage Chandler, and that's all we can do right now. Maybe this new, maybe the group home, maybe the different environment. I don't know. Maybe that will be a positive thing and it may make some changes. It already sounds like, we are getting a little more flexibility from the child. So I guess we just see what happens over time. Wish I had better answers here, but I just don't. All right, then, for today, we're going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator. We'll continue placement, have the therapeutic visits set up and available, and attempt it. And then we'll be back for the final, which is August 29th of 2023. I mean, that's right up next to our dismissal date. So y'all can start talking about what this looks like, but I think we all know what it looks like. So, okay, I appreciate everybody for an initial permanency hearing. And we are conducting this through the Zoom program under a finding of good cause and consent and agreement of the parties. Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Todd Albee on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm present, ready to proceed. Lisa Godsey. Your Honor, I don't see Lisa, but
She is in. We've
okay.
got her.
All right, then she is the case representative today. She'll be able to update you on what's going on.
I wish you could
Hammonds for the
upgrade me.
TD Hammonds for Mother Maria Velasquez. I'm ready to proceed, Judge. If she's joined us by Zoom, great.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the boys here and ready.
And neither Mr. Rodarte or Mr. Aguilera are present today. So, but Ms. Velasquez she's having difficulty connecting to audio. So I can't connect her, so I'm not sure what we can do, and we're so far behind. I need to move ahead, but I don't know, TD, if you can mute if you want to try to call her. Department, go ahead and give their report. What do we have new since the court report was filed?
Don't really have a whole lot that is new. I did submit diligent searches. I'm still waiting on those to come back. And I know I've seen the kids since I filed the court report, and they're doing really great in their current placement.
Judge, we would request that you allow us to post on Mr. Aguilar since we cannot find him. We'll get you an affidavit in order.
Okay, that's fine, and I'll sign an order as soon as you get it to us. What about Mr. Rodarte?
Judge, I think he's been served and he's still incarcerated currently in Post, Texas, Garza County.
Okay, I was just looking to see if I could see where he was served. That you show he's been served.
I thought so. I'll double check, Your Honor, but since he's in at Post, we'll make sure he gets served.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Hammonds.
Judge, we don't have anything new to present. I was going to ask Ms. Godsey. Ms. Velasquez indicated she did go and submit a hair strip the last couple days.
Whenever I was looking at her, I'm sorry, that IC3 screen to see if her order was there, it did show that it was pending. I did not send her to go, but she did go on Monday.
Okay, and we don't have those results yet.
No, that was just yesterday morning. I looked this morning. There's nothing in there. It's still pending.
Does it usually take about a week or?
It really depends. Most of the time, yes, but sometimes it takes longer than that.
Okay.
So she went last Monday?
No, she went yesterday morning.
Just yesterday. Okay.
Judge, I
No.
guess I was just gonna ask if that hair strand comes back clean, if the court would contemplate at least giving her an hour a week, either video or some sort of FaceTime connection with the boys. She hasn't had any visit with the boys because of her positive drug screens.
Okay, let me hear from Ms. Zavala on that point.
Your Honor, it was my understanding, I believe at a previous hearing, it was ordered that for visits, we needed a clean UA. I had thought that mom had not appeared for any of those drug screens. If she's cooperating and appearing for drug screens, I think it would be fine to start those visits up. I think that was the holdup, was just not having drug screens or not having clean drug screens. But I think based on the documentation, at least in the report, it looks like she was either asked to go or they could never contact her for a number of months. So I would like to see drug screens, but after that would not oppose visitation starting.
Okay, so I mean, the same principle holds true that it has all along. If mom will go drug screen when we're asking her to, and if we can get negative results on at least on the UA and lower on hair, then I'm fine with the visits. But not until then. Has she, Ms. Gotzi, is she engaged in any other services?
She did do her, her psychological with Stonebridge, and also her OSAR, but she was not honest on either one of those assessments, according to what was reported. And then she did complete a parenting class pending verification of what she actually took away from that class. She sent a couple of other certificates, but after researching those, they didn't really count for anything on her service plan.
Okay, so Mr. Hammond, she knows what service providers she needs to be going to and all that, right?
Judge, I have informed her to stay in contact with her caseworker. She has taken some online classes, but I've informed her that if the curriculum is not approved by the department, I mean, that's not going to qualify. So I've just encouraged her to stay in contact with her caseworker, to know exactly when and where she needs to go to the department approved classes.
And it looks like we
lost her. She's fallen out. And or logged out. I don't know which, but.
Well, I've got a good phone number for her, Judge. I'll contact her. I mean, she stays in contact with me. It's just one of those difficult situations where she has a criminal case pending, Judge, that is probably going to come up for trial this next month. It could resolve her ability to care for her boys. Misty Walker represents her on the criminal case. I do not believe there's a probation offer on the table.
Okay.
I mean, it's a totally separate incident, ag assault with a deadly weapon.
Understand. Okay. Then, Ms. Zavala, anything further?
I've met in person with the boys again. Every time I meet with them, they're doing better and better. Behavior, progress, everything is pretty striking from the first time that I've met them. I'm very happy with their placement. I do, and I think St. Francis and everybody's aware of this. If visitation does start back up, we need to do as much as we can to protect the privacy of placement. I think there have been some concerns in the past, and I think that will be done. But the boys are doing great there, and I've got no concerns about placement.
Okay. All right. Well, my prior orders stand with respect to moms having in-person visits. We need that clean UA. So if we get it, then we set them up.
I understand,
Okay.
Judge. We ought to, hopefully we have those results by, this time next week, so.
Hopefully so, yeah. All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'll continue placement. And our next hearing date will be October 17th of 2023. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. Mr. Hammond, since she fell out of the Zoom proceeding, if you'd be sure to let her know that date, I'd appreciate it. And it appears to me we have the mother, Sierra Ortega, present with her attorney, Mr. Hamker. In both cases, Mr. Lazaro, who is represented by Mr. Sherrod, is present. So is Mr. Sherrod. And Mr. Mendoza, who is represented by Joel Jackson, is present. They're both present. Ms. Zavala, who is the children's attorney and guardian ad litem, is present. And Mr. Albee is present on behalf of the Department of Family and Protective Services. All right, then, Ms. Campos, what do we have new since your court reports were filed?
There's not much new. Sierra and the girls have both started family therapy with the Lois Hinders. As far as I know, they've only had one session that I took the girls to, and that's about it.
All right, just the girls,
Yes,
or just
Ezra
Abdi
and Absidy. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anything else new or different?
No, the kids are doing really good. The girls have expressed that they wanted to change counselors and go to Pace Lawson because that is who Aureliano sees, and he has made a big difference in Aureliano. And so they have brought that to my attention, that they are wanting to change counselors.
Okay, can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and do it.
Okay.
If they seem to be more comfortable, then that's fine. And were they seeing Delois for individual?
No, ma'am. The Ezra and Absidy both see Lynn Jennings for counseling.
Okay.
And that's where they've been going since the beginning of this case.
Okay. But they want to change.
Yes, ma'am. And also, sorry, it was put in the court report that visits had stopped between Absidy and Mr. Mendoza, but those have recently started back up. I believe it was last week when they started back up. I don't know the reasoning behind why she didn't want to do visits with him or anything like that, but she did tell me that she wanted to start back up visits. So I got in contact with the FSW that watches the visits, and she started those visits as far as I know.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Hamker, what do we have new from y'all?
Your Honor, one, it's my understanding, and I think Jennifer, am I correct, has Sierra completed everything that was ordered by the court?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Your Honor, I know, for example, she's also completed the rational behavior therapy, which was due by September of this year. She's completed it and turned it in with certificate, has completed the last thing that was asked by the court, the sexual class has been completed. And we would suggest that if all services have been done that was ordered by the court, she's agreed to continue therapy with the children. We would ask that they be reconnected. I don't know of any reason why these children shouldn't be returned with their mother.
All right, then, Ms. Campos, what's St. Francis's position on that?
So it has been brought to our attention that during a couple of the visits that Miss Lazaro had went into the bathroom with the girls and contacted Matthew Lazaro and was basically trying to get them trying to get communication with them in the visit. This is one incident had happened when the FSW stepped out to help another person that was looking for their caseworker. And so that was brought to our attention. And Also, the phone has been an issue, or was an issue in the visits. The FSW had asked her to not bring her phone in, and she said that she has business to take care of. But I talked to the FSW, I guess it was a week or two ago, and she said that Miss Lazaro did not bring the phone in, that it was like one of the best visits that she's ever had with the kids since she took over. So I do have concerns that she would not be protective of the kids and let Matthew around the kids or have contact with them. So that's a concern.
Your Honor, my position is if it was a real big concern, I would sure have the FSW worker here today to testify regarding that. And I don't know if they may be here for all I know, but it sounds like that when or at least from Jennifer's position, that when they told her not to bring the phone, she quit bringing it. So, I mean, I don't know anything about the other matter, which shouldn't be happening, but I don't know if that actually happened or not. But I know for a fact she's worked all the services, even more than what was ordered, and is voluntarily doing the counseling. And I see no reason why these children, we're supposed to reunify children with families, and she wasn't. I don't understand. After all this time, we're almost at the end of the case anyway in September. I'd suggest it would be time to be putting these children back in the home.
Well, let's
Judge,
Mr. Alley, go ahead.
If I may, our position is that Miss Lazaro is working her services. She's working towards reunification, but we haven't got there yet. These kids have some real issues that they have been working through family counseling, and they need to continue to go to family counseling. And as long as they're doing that, then we'll, at the end of the case, we'll work towards a monitored return if that's what's in the best interest of the children. But right now, they're not ready. We're not ready. And I don't think mom is ready for the children to be home because of the attitudes of the children. So that's all comes from the report. We just ask that you continue the case as it is.
Your Honor, and I'm not in disagreement. That may be the case, but if that is what needs to be done, we need to have the professionals, the counselors here testifying to that.
All right. Well, I've got a real simple question. Ms. Lazaro, will you unmute your device?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, raise your right hand for me.
Yes, ma'am.
You solemnly swear to tell me the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you know there's records of everything you do on a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you call Mr. Lazaro and try to put the children on the phone with him or encourage them to talk to him?
No, ma'am.
Never happened?
No, ma'am. I am not even allowed alone in the restroom. And that worker, she did not walk away to help someone else. It's an open living area. And she was talking to the lady in the living room, and me and the children were still visible. And to second that, no, I did not leave my phone in the car. I don't know where Jennifer heard that from. I still have my phone on me. The only time I am on my phone in front of the children, and I have it in my phone, they can see it. We go to Snapchat and we look at the funny filters, and I take pictures and have recordings of the kids with the little funny filters. That's the only time that my phone is out.
Your Honor, we'd be more than happy to provide the phone for analyzation at a professional place for the dates that she's been, if the court wants it.
I just want clarification from Ms. Campos. Okay, who told you that she called Mr. Lazaro, and how did they think they knew that it was Mr. Lazaro?
Okay, so one of the kids informed the aunt that that's what happened. The aunt told the counselor, the aunt told me, the aunt also told Miss Zavala, as far as I'm aware, she also told Miss Zavala what had happened. So, I mean, nobody actually physically saw her. We're going based off what the kid said.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Ortega, I don't know about you. It would concern me that one of the kids is reporting to placement and other people that you attempted to get him on the phone and attempted for them to talk. Now, if it's untrue, that's the kind of stuff we talk about in family therapy. Because if it's not true, why would the child tell somebody that? Okay. I mean, is the child just trying to get attention? Is the child trying to get you in trouble? Is the child trying to get Mr. Lazaro in trouble? I mean, what's the motivation for the child to tell such a lie? Okay. Because when children lie, I mean, it's usually because of self-interest or self-preservation, to avoid punishment. or there's some other motive to it. So, you know, I do believe you need to continue with the family therapy with the kids. I mean, I think that no matter what else happens, I think that needs to happen. Now,
Regardless if I got him back or not, those were my intentions to continue. We did just start and only have one session, and that's just because everyone had a waiting list. So
yeah. And I realize that, and that's no fault of yours. And you know, and I'm very pleased that you've completed your services. So everything's going the right direction. But it does concern me if children are reporting that, and you know why that's a concern. We don't have to beat that dead horse today. But if it's the truth, it's a concern. If it's a lie, it's a concern. And so, you know, I think it's something that should probably be raised in family therapy. You know, quite frankly, because, you know, children also have to learn and understand that lies have big consequences and can have big consequences for other people. So, you know, I think that is the place to deal with that issue and to talk honestly and candidly about it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I want to hear from everybody else before I start making any decisions. So, Mr. Hamker, I know what you guys want today. Let me just start. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Campus, you had indicated that Absidy had wanted to stop the visits with Mr. Mendoza, and she has since wanted to restart those visits, and you think he's had a visit, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he was assigned a courtesy caseworker where he resides, is that right?
Yes, sir, he was.
Is that caseworker doing anything for Mr. Mendoza? Has he had any contact with her to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no, sir. We actually have stepped in and helped Mr. Lazaro. Mr. Mendoza. I apologize. Mr. Mendoza, with his OSAR assessment. I got him set up with counseling, and parenting classes and stuff like that. So me and my supervisor have helped him set all that stuff up. As far as I know, the courtesy worker has not seen him.
I'm sorry, may I speak? I have spoke with the courtesy worker, Miss Alicia. I have spoke with her.
Okay.
She has came and seen. I did my home visit. She came and see my children, and I've seen her. I've seen her once. I have kept communication with her. I talked with her about 2 weeks ago because I had some questions.
Okay.
And that's about it so far.
Okay.
So in relation to where Mr. Mendoza is on working in services right now, that's really kind of no fault of his progress is really no fault of his own, is it?
No, sir, it's not.
And he's been cooperative with you all, has he not?
Yes, sir, he has.
Okay. And in the report, I think you all had written that he needed to work on building a stronger parent-child bond between himself and the child. Do you think that a therapeutic visitation would be beneficial for he and Absidy?
I do, yes, sir.
Do you think that would be in that child's best interest?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much visitation is he getting right now?
Right now, I believe he gets an hour a week virtual visits. That's what he's getting right now.
Okay. To the extent that he's able to, and Absidy is willing, would the department be willing to allow him to have more time with the child?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, with respect to Mr. Mendoza, can we add in a therapeutic visit? I'd love to do it weekly. If we can't get a provider to do it weekly, certainly every other week. That number one gives him additional time with the child, but also on those relationship building blocks, I think we can make some progress.
Yes, ma'am.
Especially right now, while the child seems to be in a willing frame of mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Sheriff.
First of all, I really didn't understand the allegations when the worker was basically saying that Sierra had tried to get in touch with my client. Did I understand correctly that the girls had made a statement to the aunt, and did the girls make a direct statement verifying that to anyone else other than the aunt? I didn't understand that.
No, sir. They informed the aunt, and then the aunt informed the counselor, me, and Stacy as well.
And has any of the children indicated they wanted to live with the mother? I mean, the aunt, not the mother?
Not to me, no, sir.
Okay. There's a couple of changes, Your Honor, that I've been trying to get made every time we have one of these hearings. I think on page 4 of the permanency plan, there's an allegation in there that is incorrect. And it's on my client. I think it basically says my client was charged and released on bond for abusing two people, his natural daughter and also the stepdaughter.
Are we looking at the top of page 4?
I think it's at the bottom.
Okay, I was just reading, it said Matthew posted bail after sexually absentee and Ezra.
Yeah, and that's not true. There was no allegation. His child, there was no allegation. I got some reports that indicated once that they were going through Jennings, that the story may have changed. But with the bridge, with other reports to probation or the CPS, everybody that was interviewed, there were no allegations of that. And of course, he was only arrested for that one offense. And I might add, he has not been indicted yet. I talked to the prosecutor today. So I'd like to get some of those really corrected. And I don't have the pages marked right now, and I apologize, but there's some references in there that my client is refusing to participate in some of these programs. And of course, what I'm telling the court and what I'd understood from the court is until we get the criminal allegations disposed of, worked out, whatever, that I could not let my client go to some of those counseling sessions that they're saying he has refused to do. I think the record needs to indicate that's the attorney's decision, not his.
And I think we made special, we discussed this, and I thought I read in the report too that it did acknowledge that because of the criminal charges that there were some Fifth Amendment concerns. I don't know that it was phrased that way, but that the court had, for lack of a better way to say, acknowledged that is a problem, obviously, for him to go to counseling or anything or release. I think we had some discussions about what he could maybe do, but we wouldn't generically release that information to the department. Only maybe a progress, yes, he's attending, yes, he's making progress, or no, he's not. But that the actual privileged communications, wouldn't be divulged. I'll have to look back at my notes. Page 4. And it says the department received a report. Okay. That's just saying what report they received. And it said neglectful supervision. Then that next sentence says Matthew posted bail after sex.
That's correct.
He's not allowed to have contact with the children and has been seen around Sierra and the children. Okay. Then it all goes on to say then a year ago, the child made an outcry. Okay. So the sentence, Matthew posted bail. Okay.
That's incorrect. It reads the way you said, but that's incorrect. He was only charged with, and this other incident didn't come in. If there's other allegations been made, I think they've been made this year. And he made bond for allegedly assaulting A, B, C, D, E. And they keep putting that in the report. And my memory, Judge, is that you went through and actually marked out some of the programs that he had to attend. But there's references in here, and I didn't mark them for you. I apologize for that. But there's references in here that I think maybe Todd and I discussed at one time, just that it needs to correctly show that it's on advice of counsel or whatever, that he's not going to these classes. And I know that he attended one. He was having a problem with his job. Matthew, you can explain that to her, which one you were going to and which ones you had to stop and how you're trying to start back on that one, because I don't think we had an objection to that one at all.
Yes.
Okay. So Jennifer set me up with somebody, I forgot the name, with the Fire Fatherhood program. And I was having trouble with my schedules attending between work and the program. But I was on Saturdays, and I work Saturdays every now and then. And then I was supposed to go to another one that started on Wednesdays. And so I'm just trying to get back in to find a better suit.
Okay, so back to this report, then, Mr. Rowdy, if you would please go through and try to make some of these corrections. I do think, Mr. Sheriff, because my notes for today's hearing, I specifically put in my notes that Mr. Lazaro has worked a service, but because of criminal charges, others not initiated. And that came also from the report, not just my memory. So there is some reference in the report to that. And I'm going to see if I can't find it, but.
Mr. Lazaro has only started parenting classes due to his pending criminal charges.
Okay. That's what I thought I'd read.
If corrections are going to be done on the top of page 9, there's a reference to a date of May 15th, 1994. I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think this case was going on in 1994. that would probably be easily rectified.
I don't know what that date is in reference to. It's comes right under mom's name. Is it her date of birth?
I have not been able to ascertain any relevance to that date.
Yes, that is her date of birth.
Okay. It just hit at a weird page break, I think, Mr. Hamper.
Okay. Yes, that's her date
Her
of birth.
name is on the bottom of one page and that date's right at the top of the next page. And
Sorry.
Put DOB after it and I'll quit worrying about it.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Ms. Vala?
Your Honor, there is one other issue I'd like to discuss. We would like to try to set up, we've been doing this on a number of bond condition cases on these kind of allegations and domestic violence, et cetera. What we'd like to do is set up some kind of reasonable communication that protects the children, whether it be supervised, whether it be on Zoom, whether it be at family support services, to try to at least get him where he can contact his children. If there's allegations about his oldest daughter, I know the allegations about the stepdaughter, we're not requesting that, but we would like to try to get some kind of contact that he could do that's adequately supervised to be sure there's no discussions about anything except updates on the kids, just kind of a father-child discussion. And I know we would need the department to make recommendations if that's possible. We would like to get something set up on that. Again, he has not been convicted on any of these charges so far. Again, like Mr. Hamker indicates, the whole idea is family reunification, and he had a good relationship with the children, even with the stepdaughter. So, you know, I think to not allow any kind of contact at all is not necessarily in the children's best interest at this point. Again, I know there has to be a lot of conditions put on that. So improper statements, improper suggestions, anything else cannot be done, but we've managed to do it in some other cases. And if that's a possibility, I'd like to start working on that. I know what the district attorney told me today on bond conditions. If CPS was okay with that, then he would be willing to work along the same guidelines as CPS. So he's not necessarily opposed to some kind of contact. Of course, the CPS needs to kind of set the guidelines on that. And I agree with that.
Well, I mean, he has that bond restriction in place right now, correct?
The bond restriction it's there.
Okay. So what I need is, I mean, I need that bond condition modified. I don't have a problem with it, Mr. Sherrod. I mean, I quite frankly, I really have had a problem with him having supervised access to his children throughout the pendency of this case, but because of the bond condition, you know, I haven't had the authority to do that. So if the prosecutor is willing to do that and y'all have a bond hearing and if the court, you know, if the court would lift the restriction with respect to his children, you know, then I'd go with you.
Well,
on supervised visits.
Let me explain. I thought I made this clear, but I usually don't. Really what the assistant DA, Justin Sanders, said, he would be willing to do whatever CPS recommends. We're making a request for CPS to set some guidelines on that if they would. We're not asking you to change that because I agree with you, you don't have the authority on that. But what I'm saying is CPS can come up with some protective guidelines where he can at least have some kind of contact with his children. Whatever conditions they want to put on there to be sure that the conversations and the contact is consistent and in their best interest, then we will do. But it has to come from CPS. When it comes from CPS, that will be conveyed to the assistant DA, and that's what he's going to go on. So he indicated that in these cases, they usually rely upon the recommendation of the CPS and not just independently go out and make those modifications without their consent because of this ongoing investigation. So he basically said they're more in a position to make a recommendation on that than he is. So again, my request is not for the court to do it. My request is just to see if CPS will come up with some guidelines on how that should be done.
Mr. Albee, are you comfortable having a conversation with the prosecutor about this? And you can tell him that I'm willing for Mr. Lazaro to have, you know, it'd be very strictly supervised access to his children.
Sure. I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem reaching out to Mr. Sanders and talking with him and then getting with Ms. Zavala and Ms. Campos and see if we can't come up with a framework to make it all work.
And Your Honor, I would object specifically to Azrae. There has been an outcry made in counseling, and I don't think contact with her would be appropriate at this time. I do have other issues to address whenever we get to me.
Okay. All right, well, Ms. Zavala, let's get to you and let's hear your input.
So I know this is not a final. I can either just address my concerns or ask some questions to Ms. Lazaro, who's under oath. But I do have a number of concerns about things going on in visits. I will note that the information I'm getting is that it's multiple children making comments about contact with dad. It's my understanding that mom attempted to FaceTime, told Absidy that she was going to FaceTime a friend, and then when she handed it over, it was actually Matthew instead of Aubriana. So I've got some real concerns about the phone being in the visits. I believe that mom was asked multiple times at multiple visits from the visit monitor not to bring in the phone, and she refused to follow that. I've also got some concerns about mom's individual therapy. The information that I got was that the individual therapy was really not successful because she refused to address the issue at hand. And so I've got some concerns about that. We've had no family therapy, and I understand that it was hard to get that set up for a while, but it also seemed like a few months back it was because she was not acknowledging anything that had gone on, and so nothing of substance was actually being discussed in that therapy. Now, I may have the wrong information on that, but that's what I'm being told. In terms of, if we're looking at reunification, I think there are a lot of different people we need to hear from in terms of a much longer hearing. I've got some real concerns that we're just in the exact same place we were when this case started.
Your Honor, one other issue I'd like to address. When visitation started, Matthew's mother was entitled to get visitation with the children, I think once a month. That stopped and has not occurred for 6 months. I don't know what the basis for that is. It's not directed on anything. The children had a good relationship with her. Again, they may be saying there's some kind of contact. If not, I haven't seen it. It hadn't been provided to me, which I'm assuming if they had anything in writing, it would be. I'm concerned that we didn't get any notice of this last report where they're alleging that my client may be violating the bond conditions again if Sierra and he are trying to talk. So we didn't even get notice today that our hearing was going to be late. My client did, but we didn't. So I'm a little concerned about that, like, Stacy is apparently. But my question is, if it's real easy to confirm on these phones, I don't have any problems. I've told my client he's not to communicate directly or indirectly. But if those issues are coming up, it should be something that we know. But I don't know why the mother has been denied any visitation with the children. When this case first started, it was okay. So again, if there's hidden messages out there that nobody's been told, that they're just denying her visitation, again, I think when these relationships with these parents, grandparents, etc., I think when those are established, they're in the best interest of the children until there's something concrete indicating they should be taken away. And I understand on Matthew's charges, but again, no indictment, 2.5 years later, 2 years anyway. And we're trying to work through all this, but there's a lot that we can't do as long as reviewing these criminal cases. So I don't know what the deal is with the mother, except she's the mother of Matthew.
The grandmother. Yeah.
And I will
you said mother several times, but I think you meant the grandmother. I know you were referring to Matthew's mother. So I just want to make sure the record was clear who we were talking about.
Right. Well, when I'm talking about Matthew and I say his mother, I kind of assume people can follow me on that, but I apologize again. It's very confusing.
I will say that all the kids did express an interest in visiting with Grandma Anna. When I spoke to them, I think they said the last time they'd seen her had possibly been in March.
So Ms. Campos, can you answer that? Why if there's been a gap in seeing grandmother, is that because of grandmother's schedule or what's going on there?
It's because the kids were in sports. They all had games on Saturdays and Sundays, and it just wasn't, the schedules weren't connecting with each other. It was apparent to me that Anna had gone to a game. I don't know how many or anything like that, but that is the reason that the kids were in sports. Absidy is still playing basketball. And she has tournaments and stuff like that. The other 3 kids aren't in anything. So I don't have a problem with them seeing her. It's not that. It was just they were all in sports, and every single one of them besides Aisley, sorry. And so it wasn't, the schedules were conflicting with each other. And
Judge, may I say something? Sorry.
Let her finish. Let her finish.
I'm done. She can go. I'm done.
Okay. All right.
I have Anna, which is grandmother. And from my understanding, I go to games. There has not been games in a while, so that's incorrect. She has reached out to placement multiple times and placement refuses to answer her. And she has contacted Jennifer a few times as well. And Jennifer tells her that from my understanding, what I was told, that Jennifer tells Anna that she has to talk to placement so placement can set up those visits. In the beginning of all this, I was told that grandparents can go to the last 30 minutes of the visit. So if everyone's still okay with that, she's more than welcome to come to the last 30 minutes of my visit so she can get to see her grandchildren. So there's not a whole bunch of running around and trying to figure out what.
That's fine with me. I don't mind her going. And the reason I had placement set up, I don't have the kids. Placement does. I don't know what they have going on or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I left it at placement's digression or whatever it's called to set up these or to have these visits to let her know whenever they could have the kids. You know what I mean? And so it was at the beginning of the month, is on a Saturday, is when they were able to get the kids, or when she was able to get the kids. So I don't mind her seeing them. That's not my intentions at all. I don't mind if she goes to the last 30 minutes. I just need to be aware of it so that way I can let the person monitoring the visit, know, hey, the grandmother, this is her name. She will be joining the last 30 minutes. That's all I ask.
Okay, Mr. Mendoza, what is it hang on a minute, Ms. Lazaro. Mr. Mendoza, what is it you're trying to tell me?
I'm sorry, I was confused. I think it was about the grandmothers. So we were speaking of Ann, not Diane. Ann, is Ann Matthew's mother? Or are we speaking of
Yes, Diana is my mother. Anna is Matthew's mother.
Oh, well, okay, hold on. Because I spoke with Absidy in visit. She said that she has been seeing one of them. She's been seeing
Diana, my mother. She doesn't go to Anna's house.
Okay. That was the confusion.
Okay. And y'all please remember we have a court reporter, so try not to talk over each other.
I know that Jennifer doesn't have a problem with it, but my issue is that they do put it on placement, but placement holds a grudge against Anna because that is Matthew's mother. And I can say that because that has been told to me multiple times from not only my mother, but placement herself. So I don't agree that placement should have that scheduling because she is ignoring grandmother just because that is Matthew's mother.
Okay, so what we're going to either she can come into the last little bit of your visits, or Ms. Campos, we're going to set up something definite, and placement's just going to have to be out of that loop. And hate it for the kids, but I guess if they miss something, then they miss it.
Your Honor, if I may, is there a time period that there has to be a response on that? I'd like to see if we can get something set up. Again, she had visitations, and then Stacy's indicated as of March there were none. Matthew thought that there were like 6 months that she hadn't had any contact with him.
Oh, I'm saying we get those started right away. She can either come into the end of mom's visit. Mother's graciously offered that. That's great. If we want to set up, ideally, I'd like to set up a different time so it doesn't take necessarily from mom's time. But if we have a personal issue between that grandmother and placement, and we all know that those things exist, that's, face it, it's family. Families have differences. Family have problems sometimes. So I want to take it out of placement's hands and put it back on St. Francis, and then placement just they have to get the kids there.
So I'm sorry, I have a question.
But this is going to be, and whether Absidy wants to participate in that, if we set up separate visits with Mr. Lazaro's mother, If she doesn't want to participate, I'm not going to make her. The other kids can go, but I'm not going to make her. Okay. So to Ms. Zavala's concerns, assuming that we can get around or we can work out the bond problem on Mr. Lazaro seeing his children. There was the one time outcry by Azra. Is that correct, Ms. Zavala?
It's my understanding that she made an outcry to Dr. Jennings. And I know that Dr. Jennings was here last time to testify that she had filed something. It's also my understanding that she's made an outcry to Aunt as well.
Well, it's been quite some time since he's had contact with any of the children, correct?
All
right, let's
depends on if they were having contact on the phones.
Your Honor, again.
Sure. Depends. But
this is what I'm saying. Again, maybe I misunderstand this, but if the children tells the aunt, my understanding is one of the children had indicated she wanted to live with aunt instead of her mother. I don't know which one it is, but if that's the person that reported it, or if it's the person that we think is reporting the false allegation against Matthew, then there needs to be verification on it. I mean, if I understand this correct, the child tells the aunt tells somebody else, they tell somebody else. Nobody checks the phone. I really don't understand that that's just has to be the evidence that prevails on it. But again, that may be my lack of understanding on how CPS works. But it just looks like if it's hearsay on top of hearsay, there's a way you can go back and double check it.
I mean, I don't disagree with that, Mr. Sherrod. I'm just trying to wade through it and see how we can, honestly, how we can start trying to move some things forward in spite of the pending criminal charges. So,
if I may, just Your Honor, just to give you an example on some of these, we set up on domestic violence cases, we'll put a provision in that it has to be on Family Wizard or App Close, hopefully App Close on something like this. All of that's monitored. My client would understand anything that's texted with the children is going to be there for anybody to review. We also do it with supervised visitation, family support services. That supervised visitation can be with anybody. I don't mind if the visitation start off with somebody from CPS being present. We're just saying there needs to be some kind of open communications. It's been too long with these children. And there's adequate protection to be sure he's not trying to change the testimony, that he's not discussing anything except what a father would do with his kids. And of course, if we could do it in person, I think it'd be better for the kids, but probably would have to work up to that. But something needs to be done to try to open up the communication.
What I would like to start with, why don't we start trying to do some therapeutic, in other words, so the counselor is going to be present to supervise. Let's start that between Asley and Arlano and their dad, Mr. Lazaro. I would want Azra's counselor to explore with her whether or not she wants any contact with him or not. Because of the outcries. So, obviously that's all going to be monitored. It's, the conversation is going to be controlled. So, folks, my concern is it's been 2 or 2.5 years that this charge has been out there, but not indicted. And, the lawyer in me says one thing, the judge in me says something different, but, it's a big red flag that in 2 or 2.5 years, there's been no indictment handed down. And I feel like at some point in time, we have to move forward in the case. Now, does that mean we throw all caution to the wind? No. but we need to start moving forward.
Your Honor,
And,
the
and
only,
that especially is true with Ms. Lazaro, because she has worked her services. She's done what we've asked of her. There need to be safeguards, but and you guys, the bottom line is, I mean, I can't give you a next hearing date because y'all have asked for the referring court to hear these cases, and there's been a jury demand. So, I'm not going to be the one that determines the ultimate outcome, but that I feel like between now and then we need to start looking forward and looking at, we have a parent who has complied. We have a parent who the children could eventually be reunified with, and the children would all be together. So, I mean, we all know what the stated goals are. We all know what the law says we need to try to achieve. And I mean, so I think we've just got to start moving forward with some of it. I agree with Ms. Zavala. In many ways, we are right where we were, a year ago. And that's not the department's fault. It's just kind of nobody's fault. I mean, it's just, everybody knows how difficult these things are when there are these kind of criminal charges pending. But at some point we have to look at the parents individually. And I think we are at that point. So I think Mr. Mendoza would benefit greatly with doing the therapeutic visits with his daughter and developing that relationship. And even if Absidy goes home to live with mom, he's her dad. And if we can help foster the beginning of a really good relationship between him and that child, then we need to do that. That's our job. If, I want the department to look at the steps that we normally look at as far as reunification with mom. Start sitting down, start developing that. What's that going to look like? What are the protections? Ms. Lazaro, I mean, what the rules are as far as the kids having contact with Mr. Lazaro right now, certainly with respect to Absidy. But, if he starts having therapeutic visits with the others, and if we'll see what develops with Azrae, but you got to play by the rules. Even when the kids come home, I mean, you got to play by the rules. And because if you don't, and then somebody finds out that Mr. Lazaro has been there, or the children start saying, oh, we've been talking to him on the phone, or he's been by the house, or this or that. I mean, then the whole thing blows wide open again. So, but we are at that point. We've got to start looking at it. So I'm not going to change any of the kids' placements today. We're going to change up some of this visitation. Let's get grandma back in the door to seeing the kids. Let's get Mr. Mendoza going on more time with his child. And Mr. Lazaro, let's set up some therapeutic, excuse me, time with the two youngest children. And then, Azrae and her counselor can discuss that. So I'm prepared to go that far with it today, y'all. But I'm not prepared to just change the whole thing and flip everything upside down when I'm not the trier of fact, So, but I think that's reasonable. So, Mr. Alvey, if you would please just confer with the prosecutor, and then y'all let us know about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you can at least convey to him what, that I'm certainly willing. I'm willing to go down that road. Okay. So like I said, I can't give you guys a future hearing date. I don't know whether y'all have secured one with the referring court yet or not. You've got two referring courts. I don't know if you have gotten instruction from one or the other who's going to hear it. I assume they're not going to do two separate jury trials. I assume somebody's going to hear.
Yeah, we anticipate reaching out to them this week and getting some instructions from them.
Okay, so either Judge Denny or Judge Woodburn, somebody's got, one of the two is going to hear it, but I assume they're not going to do those separately. So I wouldn't think. So, okay. So I guess that's all I can do for you guys today. You know, if something happens and that jury trial gets put back and we need to have another review, Mr. Albee will let us know. But hopefully you guys will get your jury trial date and you can get it done.
Your Honor, specifically with respect to Sierra Lazaro, is there anything that the court wishes her to do other than just continue the family counseling?
I think that's all that's left for her to do. Just continue the family counseling and just follow the rules. And I don't know that she hasn't followed the rules, you know? I don't have the crystal ball. Wish I did.
Thank you.
But you know, it's a small window of time, Ms. Lazaro, that you have to spend with the kids. You know, I hope that you would seriously restrict your telephone use, you know, just because it is such a small window of time that you have with children. However, you know, looking around society today, you know, if I condemned every parent that was on their cell phone when they were spending time with their children, well, we'd have a major problem. So, just saying. Okay.